Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Mic, the Liquefied Petroleum Gas Safety Series. Today, we are out and about so that we figure out exactly how our gas suppliers are doing it. My name is Yvonne Muchaka, and today is International LP Gas Day. Right, you didn't know it's celebrated, right? Neither did I. But because we are following the LPG safety, we are visiting bulk gases. We want to learn how they are putting in place safety measures in order to make sure that you, the consumers, are protected.
Yes, my name is Amanda Mitumili. I'm part of the sales team for Wonder Gases, which is a LPG retailing company, and we are the official distributors for BOC gases. Currently, we are located in Harare, Marondera, and Bulawayo. We have about 16 outlets throughout the country at the moment. The first thing that happens when customers enter our site, at the door, there actually is bold and clear emergency and health and safety signs. So these signs basically inform the customer that they're entering a site that has a highly flammable product and the precautions that they need to take. So, for example, not to be on the cell phone, not to bring in a naked flame. And then as they enter the site, we have equipment on site, which is basically fireproof pump and scale. The fireproof pump and scale is the equipment on site. And basically what it does, it protects when we are refilling from any ignition source creating an explosion with the gas. So it's actually fireproof and it's approved by ZERA. Okay. Another precaution that we take with regards to when customers visit the site is that our LPG refilling attendant will inspect the customer's tank. And this inspection is necessary firstly to ensure that the tank is in a very, it has an integrity and that it won't actually have any leaks. They also check for any alterations to ensure that it hasn't been damaged or altered in any way that will affect the integrity of the tank when they're filling it, thereby ensuring that nothing happens while the filler is refilling the tank. Another thing that we actually have done to ensure safety at the sites, obviously, is the issue of training. We have in-house training that we carry out as Wonder Gases. Our fillers are also trained by BOC Gases, as well as being ZERA certified fillers as well.
All right. And how long does the training take?
All right. With regards to in-house training, it's always continuous. Obviously, we are always trying to remind the fillers about what precautions and how they need to maintain health and safety. With regards to bulk, it happens every 6 months. They are trained every 6 months, refresher courses. And then the ZERA training is a once-off training where the filler basically gets certified that he has attended a ZERA LPG training course. The other thing that we've actually found very helpful as well at the site with regards to informing customers on health and safety is actually talking to them. A lot of customers in the past were nervous about LPG, but with time, they've become more comfortable. And part of what we find is valuable is to inform them about the chemical properties of LPG, how it acts as a product, and how they can then protect themselves as well.
Right. And we have seen a proliferation of unscrupulous dealers in the market. How do you assure customers out there that your gas is safe and reliable, as well as of good quality?
Okay, no problem. Well, the first thing you'd advise the customers, obviously, as you are approaching an LPG refilling site, is to be aware of how it looks, its presentation, its professionalism. Okay. In our case, as I already mentioned, we are an official distributor for BOC Gases. BOC Gases has been in this market for over 80 years. It's a reputable international company, and their gas is ISO certified. So it's been tested and it's been found to be of a good quality. But besides that, the commitment that we make with regards to the gas that we provide to the customers or filling the tanks is that it will last longer, meaning that when they're using it as cooking with it, it will take longer to finish. Secondly, it burns faster, which means that when you put something on the pot or you're trying to heat something up, it takes less time. And thirdly, that it burns cleaner. Cleaner in the sense that it doesn't leave residue or soot on your utensils when you're using the product.
Normally, how we look at our tanks, the first thing that we look at it, when we get the tank from the customer is this hose. Every tank that's supposed to be safe has to have this protection, has to have this protectionary casing. Apart from that, then we look at the valve. The valve, we are supposed to see if the valve is connected enough, if there are no leaks, if the valve hasn't been tampered with, then we look at the casing as well. What happens with our tanks is they have a 3-piece system. As you can see, there's the bottom here, then there's the middle part, then there's the walls. So what happens when we start, before we start filling, we have to look at all these things, and we have to look at all these vulnerable parts and see if they haven't been tampered with. Then after that, we have to do, if possible, if we think that the tank has been tampered with, but we think that at least it's still usable, we have to look at, we have to perform a leak test on the tank. Okay. So normally we have a leak test, but for the sake of clarity, let's just do this thing. So this shows us that this tank is not leaking. There are no leaks on the tank, so at that point in time, we are ready to fill. The filling process, I've already checked the collar of the tank, which is okay, and I've already checked the bottom of the tank, which is okay. Most of the vulnerable parts are okay. This shows that this tank, from my eyesight, from an eyesight point of view, has not been tampered with in any way. So I can start the filling process. So the difference between this tank, and this one is that this tank, as you can see, it records 5.8. When it records a tail weight of 5.8, and the tail weight, when we talk about the tail weight, we're talking about the weight of the empty cylinder. So it records 5.8, or at least that's the wrong tail weight. So the right tail weight would be around 6.9. This means that this tank, it's not a safe tank to fill, because you might end up underfilling or overfilling someone because you are assuming the tail weight. This tank on the other end is an ideal tank because it has the right tail weight, which is a 7.5 when it's empty. So it hasn't been compromised. While you can see that the collar of the tank is properly installed, the bottom of the tank is properly installed. You can look at the valve, and you can see that the valve has not been tampered with in any way. So that means it's a safe tank to use. So because of this, I can start filling as well. All right. In this regard, we can see that the weight on the scale is 7.6, while the weight of the empty cylinder is 7.5. That means that there's about 100 grams in the tank. So because of that, that means whatever I'm going to put in the tank is going to be less 100 grams to full capacity in order for the tank to be okay. So I can start now. As you can see, when we get into our site, there are two signs that are there. There's the empty tank part, then there's the full tank part. So these tanks are separated because in the case of a fire, the empty tanks are much more dangerous than the full tanks. So you find that if there is a fire, we might need to separate, we might need to move probably the tank that is ignited. And probably if let's start from the empty tank perspective, for example. The empty tanks can give us at most a 20-minute window to actually deal with the fire that is within them, but they are much more dangerous because when it comes to the full tanks, if fire actually occurs, the gas can run out. The fire will actually consume the gas that is within the tank, and afterwards the tank will then ignite. It's different from the empty tanks. The empty tanks don't do that. You have much more limited, you need to time when it comes to that. You can.
So with regards to the separation of our empty and full tanks, it is a requirement by fire brigade that we clearly distinguish which tanks are empty and full. This is in the case of an incident, so that they, when they are responding, can respond appropriately. So as has been explained prior to this, the empty tanks, because they're empty, have a shorter time for which they can then erupt when there is a fire, whereas the bigger tanks might take a longer time to actually explode. So when fire department comes, they will need to know that so they can respond appropriately.
So our tanks are composed of two sides. Unlike the informal traders that operate on the road, our tanks that we use for commercial use, they are different for the tanks that are used for domestic use. The tanks are composed of two sides. There's the LDO side that pumps in gas into the tank. That's the one that actually deducts a liquid petroleum gas from our 48 kg tanks and puts them into our portfolio, the tank that we are filling. Then there is the vapor side, in which the gas returns. That's the air, the vapor gas that's within your tank, or the air that's within your tank, it returns to this tank. So it's a double process. So when I'm here, what I'm doing is I'm opening up my LDOs to full capacity so that you can receive your gas. Probably the time will be limited. You need some pumping your gas. What we mean is that for our customers, because they haven't been trained in the use of gas, or they haven't been trained in the handling of gas, we don't allow any customers within the site. Customers can only stay outside outside the site. As you can see, we have managed to put our scales right where they can see how many kgs are getting into their tanks, while at least they are far away from the site, as far away from the site as possible. That is to protect the customers if there is any problem or any case of fire or any gas leak that is there. The customers are in a position to actually get away, while the gas attendant actually handles the flammable objects that are within the site. Then apart from that, as you can see, we have our COVID signs. It's unfortunate that for the past 2 years, we've been dealing with the issue of COVID. So as you can see, our COVID signs is clearly written out instructions on how to conduct yourself when you get to the site. So we get into the site. The first thing that you encounter is, you can see, our fire extinguishers. So we have 2 fire extinguishers. These fire extinguishers work totally different. The first fire extinguisher is the red one here, is the water fire extinguisher. This one works in terms of gas leaks, and it works in terms of fire. When it comes to fire, and let's say there is a fire, in the event that there is a fire within the site, while I'm taking all those emergency action plans, I would also need to try, let's say the fire actually enters like one of our tanks. I'm going to close all of my tanks, then I'm going to take one tank. The tank that has the fire in it, I think there is a window period where I can try and sort of like rupture the tank while it's using my water fire extinguisher. After it ruptures, the fire is out, then I can use my powder fire extinguisher to turn off the fire or the gas fire. All right. So the powder fire extinguisher, because you know that water sometimes might not necessarily work when it comes to petroleum objects. That's why we need the powder fire extinguisher. That is the blue fire extinguisher within the site.
So if you look at fire department, they give us specifications to to construct LPG refilling site, so that it's like basically you contain any explosions that might happen. In our case, if you look at the brick, there's a thickness that we have used so that if there's any incident that happens, if there's an explosion, for example, that explosion will be contained because of the thickness of the wall as well, and because of the wrought iron that is actually used. Okay. Yes.
So it's fire brigade.
Yes. So fire brigade comes, they'll inspect and they'll be happy with regards to the thickness of the wall and how you've actually constructed the site.
Right. And then
yes. Then they give the go ahead. So for example, in our case, for your licensing, you get approval for fire brigade from EMA, and then obviously Zera then finally license you to say that your site is meeting the standards for refilling LPG.
Lights, they make you feel at home. Your tank, and they get inside and they want it all, the social chat while they are serving you, and they always say thank you. It's like
All right, no, that's fine. Thank you so much.